Hey there, you know what? I've been hearing a lot about secret cameras in hotel rooms. Are there any hidden in my room?
No, sir. We assure you there will be no cameras and no one watching you while you are in your guest room.
Oh, can I pay extra for that?
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast with me, Glenn Hausman. I'm psyched to have you guys here. You know, as you know, the show's been going great, and this show is going to be no different. Coming up after this first segment, I've got an amazing interview with the CEO of Virgin Hotels, Raul Leal. We learn all about how the Virgin Chicago became the #1 hotel in the country in its first year of operation. That's going to be fun. That's going to be exciting, but not necessarily as exciting as, one of my regular cohorts that are here, and it's back on the show, Mr. Chip English. How are you, sir?
Fine, Glenn. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and I hear you're doing fabulous. It's your birthday. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. That just means one foot closer to the grave.
It's true. And the funny thing about birthdays to me is that for some reason I think we're all supposed to get excited about them like we were 9 or 10 years old, but every single year the birthday seems to be an insane disappointment for me. But I hope that you're not suffering from the same problems as me.
Well, a little bit. You get older or whatnot. At this point, I wanted to either be left alone or awoken by sex. So neither one of those have happened today.
Right. Well, maybe don't look at me because, I cannot help you with the second part of it. But hey, guys out there, make sure you like our show on iTunes. Give us 5 stars. Drop us a rating. Let me know what's going on. We're doing great. Nearly every show we're putting out now is getting a record number of downloads, which is really fun, which is really exciting, and I'm completely stoked. And be sure to check out my work in Hotel Management Magazine, where I serve as their editor-at-large, and write to both of us. You can find me at Traveling Glenn on Twitter, and you're a punk rock chef there on Twitter, right? It's a PNK. How do you spell that over there?
PUNKRCK chef.
All right, and we'll remind you guys.
So just the O is missing from the punk.
Yeah, cool.
For the
Yeah. I can never remember it. I'm not too bright. And we're recording this thing early-ish in the morning, although that hasn't stopped you from enjoying your birthday festivities so far, right, Chip?
It is my birthday. I will do what I want. I'm not working today. I'm not in a kitchen, so, I'm having a lovely glass of wine. And when I say a glass, I mean the bottle that it came in. So that's glass.
Well, right. And at least
not a glass.
At least
a fish bowl's a glass. I might fill that up.
At least it's only one. I like a fish bowl. The last time I had a drink in a fish bowl, I think was 1991 spring break, Panama City, and that did not end well.
You mean like the shark attack where they put it's the red liquid or the blue liquid and they put the red in with a shark? I love that thing.
Yes. And they would say it's for a group and give you like 4 straws, but come on, let's be real. Yeah. It was every man for
me
himself.
And my wife put those down on vacation all the time, but it's usually after we've had a couple, and then I've got a whole little comical thing with the shark and the attack and start screaming and, generally driving out the other customers in the restaurant.
Right. Well, that's what you want. You are VP and you want to have a private room, so that seems like a rational choice to me.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Right. All right. So, what I wanted to talk to you about today is food, because whenever we get on this, whenever I get you on the show, it's my excuse to talk about all the fun stuff that's going to be happening in the food world. And some of the stuff I want to talk about are the trends that we expect to see in 2017, or what others expect to see, and then we'll tell them if they're right or they're wrong. But before that, there was an interesting article that I saw in the Wrap, and it was about Alice Waters and Jacques Pepin, two of the world's most foremost chefs, promoting their PBS documentary series American Masters during the Television Critics Association press tour. Now, in this, they say reality competition shows such as Top Chef and Chopped are doing a disservice to the art of cooking. Pepin actually says it's a disservice very often because this is not what cooking is all about. Insert French accent here. The kind of confrontation that you have is not really how you learn to cook or how you understand food. Now, Waters is saying that we're teaching the kind of fast food values in our country through these competition cooking shows, when in fact, cooking really is something that can be very meditative, and it's never about competition. It's about pleasure of dealing with real food. Plus, Waters is saying that the fast food industry has a profoundly negative effect on American cuisine, causing people to lower their standards and expect less from the food they eat. She says when the fast food industry came in, they just took us with them. So Chip, what do you think about this? Are they right? Are they wrong? What's in your mind?
Well, there's several parts of that going on. First off, I'd have to agree with Jacques Pepin.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's my I could bring.
I just like saying the name Jacques Pepin.
Yeah. Well, that's from years of watching Bugs Bunny cartoons, obviously. You know, Pepin Le Pew. Now I can speak into that thing.
Listen, I did not get to see.
That's American culture for you. We didn't learn it in Paris. No, we learned it from crappy racist cartoons.
Right. And quite frankly, I have a very definitive opinions about Albuquerque because I know Bugs Bunny should have made a left over there.
Every time you take a wrong turn in the car, you're like, should have turned left at Albuquerque. Man, let me tell you what. Anyway, but with the Top Chef thing and what Pepin is actually talking about, there are parts of me that agree on that subject because, yes, the competition shows on TV do not show what it is to be a chef, what it is to be a good or a great cook. Mm-hmm. These are last-minute, sloppily put together recipes. Now, however, the other side of the coin is if you're an extremely talented chef and what I would consider to be a pantry chef, you can look at something and create something out of nothing because you've done so much before. You have so much technique in your arsenal. You have so many recipes and things at your head that you're basically reaching back into your brain and creating something that you've done before that you know you can, which shows a lot of technical expertise. However, that is not the job. That is not the job, spending 60, 70, 80 hours a week, grunting it out on a line, making sure your food cost is in order, that your labor costs are in order, that your kitchen is streamlined, that your employees are happy, worrying about health insurance, worrying about OSHA rules and things like that. That is a mere 2% of the job and being able to put stuff like that together, creativity. And here's the thing. As I have gone from different, let's say, employments, over the past few years, there has been several times when in that they wanted me to not stage, which is the French way of, it's a working interview. But instead of doing that, to be thrust into the limelight and cook something really quick for them. So they see this mentality on TV of everybody should be able to compete in a Top Chef or an Iron Chef or a Gordon Ramsay Kitchen Nightmares atmosphere or arena, if you will, and that everybody should be able to do that they're now hell-bent on forcing people into these situations that really isn't. Right. Me personally, living in the South, slow cooking is now coming back around so well, being embraced so full as a trend, and when you speak of 2017 trend, that I believe there's care to be taken in food again, instead of just whipping it out. And I agree with the fast food culture. That's something that I desperately avoid. I won't say that, the drunken super every once in a while I don't like to talk about, but or the place that makes you run for the bar.
Right. All right.
So that's my thoughts on that.
Right. So I got to tell you, I think Alice Waters and Jacques Pepin are a little bit full of themselves when it comes to this. I don't think that they're in touch with the way that society and reality is working. So stick with me a minute, Chip, before you decide to blast me on this one. But I think I think number one, looking at the programs themselves, they're confusing entertainment television with reality. I actually think that these particular programs, like Top Chef, like Chopped, which I happen to like a lot, are not really food shows. They're competition shows that feature food. And I don't know anybody in my entire life that watches all of these things and gets an erroneous feeling about how they can prepare meals at home. To me, it's really specifically about these folks doing really cool stuff, engaging me in the interest of food, and that propels me to want to cook more meals at home. Now, they're talking about it for promoting a fast food culture. I think society is out of control. We're moving way too fast. People are working harder than ever. whatever. They're busy. Technology is destroying our attention spans. We're caught up with working insane long hours, trying to balance family, trying to balance taking the kids to 1,000 different activities, trying to get your life together. And while people have great ideas and hopes and dreams of cooking great, slow-cooked meals for their families or doing whatever, it's just not reality. It's just not the way people live our lives. And it's a thing where we would like to do it, but it's not about teaching fast food values. It's about trying to create the best meal as possible in the situation that we have. Plus, our reliance on fast food and our stupid government subsidies that focus all of their time and attention on things like corn, they're not promoting fruit and vegetables. So it's not the cooking shows, to me, that's a problem. It's the culture that created the cooking shows that they may not like that I think needs to be addressed. So, Chip, tell me why I suck. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Where do I start? This go mentality, I think, it can be a problem. It's going to run people to early graves. Millennials now that are just go. Everything's faster, bigger. You've got a technologically bound society that has lost touch with its common man or with its family or with real society of sitting down to a really good dinner or a really good meal where people would discuss, what happened in their day. They would regale their days of what happened. And meals were gatherings, which is, why you see a lot, obviously within the last 5 years, a lot of places being titled as the public house or public houses instead of a pub or things like that, because that was a place that people went at the end of the day to regale their days and stuff over a good meal or a couple pints or something like that. And I think that we're seeing less and less of that. There's so much go that food is being affected by that as well. Right. And that's the culture that I get out of these competition, shows. I'm not asking that people slow down their lives and their busy, hectic schedule with kids and work and trying to balance the whole thing. But don't try to make a meal in a half an hour or assume that when you see it on TV that's instantaneously going to be possible at home. And at the same time, just because you replicated something you saw on TV, please, for the love of God, don't call yourself a chef, lest I smack you in the face.
Yeah, that part of it is absolutely infuriating. All right, so I think we can agree that while Alice Waters and Jacques Pepin are coming from the right place, I think that they're not really looking at the issue from the right angle. They're blaming an effect and not the cause. So I think we could both agree together that we need to find ways to get Americans in particular to reevaluate the relationship with food, to put more of an emphasis on the actual cooking process. And I do like that she said that it's something that can be very meditative. And for me, in my life, it absolutely is. There's nothing I like more than on a Saturday night, having a glass of wine, and I put that in air quotes, so it's a Chip English glass of wine, and taking my time over a number of hours to focus on creating a meal that I know my family is going to like. Now, I'm not a chef. I am a direction follower. So I can follow the recipe and figure it all out, but I have zero creativity. But I still find that process is great and slow. But we cannot do that on a Tuesday night. We cannot do that on a Thursday night because our lives are so hectic. It is so difficult for us to find good, healthy meals to put on the table that take that time to cook. I'm working from home most of the time these days, Chip, but I don't knock off till 5, 6 o'clock. And if we don't spend the previous weekend planning every menu intimately, we simply panic, we don't have time, and we wind up getting crap like Chinese food takeout all the time.
Let me interject here.
Yes, please.
This is my idea on it because this is how I go to, let's say, quote unquote, game. Mm-hmm. How I go to game with cooking at home. I have a wife who is into the paleo and the gluten free and maybe wants to be vegan and her stipulations are starting to compound on my shoulders of things that I have to think of to make sure that we can eat together. So because of that being a challenge, or really just making meals in general, being as my time is very limited as well, and I also do a lot of cooking, in professional kitchens, but not at home, I am thinking ahead of what to make.
Right.
I will think, if I'm having lunch, I'm already thinking, what are we going to do for dinner so that I can wrap my head around it? And I know that I could go into my kitchen. I know what's in the pantry. I know what's in the refrigerator. I know what's available. And how to put those ingredients together quicker. A game plan is how you can get this accomplished, and cooking better and not trying to cook fast or be in it. And what we're really talking about, how this conversation started, was those TV shows or really game shows for chefs.
Yep.
Are exposing people to this quick culture that is not needed.
That's right.
I think with proper planning, really, when you go to the market, if you go to the market once per week, grocery store once per week, you should have your meals planned out for the week. And that also enables you to cut your cost at home, to prepare better, healthier meals that are easy for you to actually cook and give to your family in your home without spending a whole lot of money.
Right. Now, I have a lot of
prior planning prevents piss-poor performance.
That's absolutely right. And that's something that we're trying to adopt that methodology here at home. Saturday mornings now is all about us drinking coffee for a little bit, waking up, and then having that conversation. What are we going to do for dinner tonight? What about Sunday night? What about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? Put all of that out there. We create a menu for the week, and then there's no question. So when I do get that last-minute work phone call and I get off it, and I go to make dinner at 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, at least now I have a game plan in place, and I know exactly how much time it's going to take. I think that what we're touching on now is that the common American isn't planning it in advance. They're waiting to the last moment, and that is what creates the need to go bring in those horrible fast food meals, as opposed to being smart and methodical about it, right?
Here's the thing as well. Think about less waste. When you plan in advance and you go to the farmer's market or whatnot, and you buy a lot of great produce or whatnot, and you have the meals planned out each day, you know that you're going to use it by this time period. So it's not going to go to waste. So you're preventing two things: you from eating unhealthy, and B, they're going waste into landfills and creating so much bigger costs that are not necessary if you just eat properly.
Yep. And it's really sad because we're spending more money now here in America in restaurants than we are in the grocery store. I think that's a really bizarre thing to see happening as well.
Well, it's also because it's overpriced by crappy chefs.
Yeah.
I don't need to pay $10 for pimento cheese. That's stupid. I live in the South. Put pimento cheese, chicken and waffles, and grits on more stuff, please. I really want to pay $20 for that. It's idiotic.
And be sure to check out our show from November, the last time Chip and I were on the microphone, about him blasting chicken and waffles and me desperately trying to defend my passion for chicken and waffles. We don't need to relive that one. We got plenty of other things that we could complain about.
Yes.
Be sure.
We can get into pizza. Let me tell you what. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day that said, you know what? Hey, bad pizza's like sex. Even when it's bad, it's really good. I'm like, really? Because I can't remember the last time I had sex and wanted to change my toilet paper. It's like, have you ever, the guy that claims to be a father figure, let's say, in pizza, you ever have that stuff?
Yeah.
His cheese has wood pulp in it. Let me tell you what, stay close to a bathroom. Right. Okay? That's not good pizza.
Yeah, and if you want to go on the wood pulp tour, I think Taco Bell also has wood pulp in their meat, which is always tasty.
They released a study, actually, that I just saw the other day that is quickly becoming the healthiest
yes.
fast food option because of their changing everything. They took the lard out of their refried beans. I'm like, so now you're saying it gives you diarrhea and it's not delicious?
Right.
Great.
I was about to say, yes, now they have taste-free beans. Awesome.
Yeah. So they have like a whole vegan and vegetarian thing going on. I'm like, so I don't understand here. I want to be disappointed and have diarrhea? I don't get it.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm never disappointed by diarrhea. It always amazes me every single time. Speaking of diarrhea, we got lots of great food trends coming up in 2017. And Eater, and I'll put this in the show notes, has done a great job at collecting them all into one place. And while there's over 80 of them, I thought we would discuss a couple of them. You'd mentioned pizzas, and Bon Appetit is saying that old school pizzerias are making a comeback. I'm feeling like, as a New York, Long Island boy, that's all we've ever had is old school pizzerias. In fact, my favorite pizzeria here in my neighborhood, I don't think has ever changed their decor since like the early 1970s when they first opened. So you walk in and it's like going back to 1973. Even the guys that work there, I think, have been there since 73.
The guys that work in there are still Italian immigrants and racist.
Yeah.
That's what you're telling me? It's like something out of Do the Right Thing? That's what you're telling me. They're like, who's on that wall over here? Hey, yo! That's to me, maybe it's just me, but I upgrade at least your staff.
Yeah.
Those guys have to die sooner or later. They're all in the mob.
Yeah, they will, but I got to tell you, their pizza is freaking phenomenal. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
It really is. We got that New York style pizza. It's great. But here at home, I've taken more towards flatbread pizzas and throwing them on the grill with a lot of fun, healthy ingredients. And I find that to be delicious, easy to make, and something my family likes.
Well, that's another weird comeback trend. It's flatbreads. People putting, flatbreads, it was like you had your tchotchke crap on the wall restaurants that were doing flatbreads back in the late 80s, and that's made a resurgence now. You're seeing that again, but you're seeing it in these chef-driven restaurants or your gastropubs, which I swear to God, stop naming places that, I'll kill you.
I just went to.
But you have the right concept, is putting better ingredients on it, making the dough from scratch, using like non-breads or Ethiopian sponge bread. I mean, different things like that. So flatbreads are making a good comeback, but they're being made in a better way with more care. 5 ingredients or less, very clean ingredients, organic stuff.
Yeah, I love that. Let me give a shout out to the Brooklyn Bread Company. That's BRED. They do a great job at making all sorts of different breads that I like to take because I simply don't have the time in my life to make it myself. All right, so one trend that I think is really awesome that I happen to like is pho, right? Pho, P-H-O, pho, the soup from Vietnam. I think I'm saying it right. I never know. I want to say pho. I don't know what I'm doing with that one.
Just F and A together. Say that.
Pho.
There you go.
Hey, we did it. All right, so.
Yeah. And this, did you read this, that this is a trend for 2017?
Well, this is
17, not 16 or 15.
That's right. I think what happens when you get to something to the point where it makes the trend list, insiders in the business, such as us, already see it as it was 3-4 years ago. But it does take a lot of time for things to catch on. Well, I remember when I'm in the hospitality business, I've been a hotel industry writer for 20 years, and we would really be writing about upcoming trends in hospitality 2, 3, 4 years before they really broke out into the open. So let's try to be polite to these guys. No, it's consumer and not us insiders.
I will not. Especially on my birthday. I will not be polite.
That's good. That's a good point. Very good point. I apologize. All right. So, Fa, tell me a little about it. What do you think? Is it good? Is it smart?
The Fa trend coming in? Well, here's the thing. Obviously, this is a very old technique that is almost a breakfast staple for the Asian community. Mm-hmm. But now that you're having it introduced into Western culture in this huge, huge way. You're seeing chefs try to go at it, I think, on their own without really having the proper training and whatnot. So when you see it pop up in your public houses or gastropubs or stuff like that, a lot of times it's hit or miss.
Right.
While I applaud them for trying because it's all about the broth, this is a slow process that requires, the best ingredients you can, these great pork bones, your different herbs and spices that I will not give away to your listeners because I can make my own from home and have successfully, but it is certainly still nothing like the places that you can go to.
Right. Like
here in Atlanta, we've got Buford Highway you can go to that are 24 hours a day. Because you go in the morning and the thing is Koreans are going to eat this as breakfast and they're not a culture that sits down, for a long time. They don't want to, they don't want to sit and have a long meal or talk or regale their day or whatnot. They're in and out. So a lot of times you'll see the noodles and everything that's in the bowl will be gone. A little bit of broth will be left and they will have left their table. They're in and out. Whereas me and my wife go, we'll get it. Maybe we'll get a banh mi as well. We'll hang out for a little bit, and we've seen 2 or 3 families come in and out on the exact same table next to us.
Wow.
So, it's a hit or miss really with the chefs trying to do it nowadays. That they're trying to make it a little bit fancier where this is supposed to be poor people food. And that's really the beauty of it is taking those very meager ingredients and having them shine in this huge pot of stew that may cost, a quarter. And that's why you're paying $3 for it.
Right.
Which is still covering your costs and their labor costs. And it's absolutely delicious, especially like in Atlanta when it's cold and rainy and gray out and whatnot. And you sink into this place, like thinking it's a different world, there's different languages and everybody speaking, in Korean and going on and back of you and you have no idea what's going on. And I just love it. It's delightful. I'm glad to see that people are embracing it and people are, going out and eating it more, but it's it's certainly something that you need to find some authenticity in, if you can, in your area.
For sure. And speaking of I'm finding that the whole noodle trend is general, I believe, is really starting to take off. I'm seeing a lot more ramen joints open, noodle joints open. There's even a sad fast food derivative of a noodle place that's really starting to catch on now.
Absolutely. And this has been going on for 3, probably 4 years in cities that are, have a very good culinary scene. So obviously the rest of the United States is kind of catching up. You see things will happen in LA or Chicago or New York that sometimes Atlanta won't see. But then we're so close to Charleston, and there's such on a cutting edge of food that we tend to get a spillover and see a lot of really great trends. So we're very fortunate. I'm very fortunate as a chef and be able to see a lot of that stuff trickle down. It's nice. But the ramen thing, let me tell you what, here's a great story.
Yeah.
Here in town, we have a great sports bar that's on our Ponce de Leon Idiot Avenue that's completely always busy and wrecked with just crime and terrible, terrible places. So on it is an Atlanta institution. I won't name the name, but it's a sports bar, and it is heavily frequented by African Americans. They love the place. It's one of there's different sports teams that go there, and they crush it over there. They have a great time. I've been in to consult with them, met a lot of the patrons and the employees and whatnot. And they're all wonderful, awesome sports fans and love food and whatnot. Well, the owner did some traveling and watches entirely too much TV.
Right.
And went on to put ramen, like a true ramen bowl, on its menu. And I've never seen something so not taken in by its patrons ever in my entire 31 careers. They were like, what the F is this?
Right.
Disgusting. Is that an egg and soup? What the
Right.
It was hysterical. I mean, it was so far off of what their menu needs to be playing to their clientele. And I was like, I appreciate the fact that you're trying to do something different, but you really got to play to your audience here. Yeah. And this is a couple years ago. I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh my God. Is there any food out there that you think is just going to become insanely Americana in the same way that sushi was in the 80s? Nobody heard of it. In the 90s, everybody was like, I ain't eating that. And now they've pretty much replaced sit-down Chinese restaurants as the Asian go-to place around America.
That's a great question. The ethnicities in America are picking up so well. Finally, I think that the United States is embracing the fact that it is a melting pot, that everybody is from somewhere else.
And I can definitely see that with the way politics has been. Sure.
But seriously,
yes,
the culinary world, people are embracing that there's so many different foods, and that, we've gone, obviously, when you speak of politics, we've gone through several different mini depressions where, times are tough and bills are tight and people want to eat cheaper, like the whole burger craze that you can, we had a podcast on before that you could go back and listen to, why they started selling things cheaper. Well, now within the past, say, 5 years, people are starting to embrace the ethnicities from around the world that have settled in the United States and have these great foods that can be acquired and dined out on for extremely cheap, that take a lot of care and thought of local ingredients that, like Korean, let's say Koreans, Italians, Hispanics, all different types are now sourcing local ingredients and using them for their old mom and pop recipes that you can get in these incredible restaurants if you seek out the ethnic parts of your town. Like in Atlanta, obviously it's Buford Highway, but there's so many different ones in different cities that, that's what I think is the biggest trend to explode within the last 2 to 3 years and will continue to get stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah, I would like to see Indian food be more front and center on people paying attention to that.
That's up and coming.
Yeah, what they can do with vegetarian cuisine and spices is amazing. I don't ever feel, and I grew up in a meat and potatoes era, I don't ever feel I'm missing out when I'm having Indian food, and it makes me understand how you could be a vegetarian when I eat Indian food.
I don't either. I mean, obviously there's no beef involved, but there's so many different proteins that could go into it.
And
it's a very filling food with different ancient grains, and things that are filling, that are pot fillers, and go into one pot and really feed a family for very, very little.
Yes.
And while that may or may not be necessary, obviously here in the United States, for certain people, it is necessary. So these are great things to learn, to brush up on, that you're not going to see on your Food Network's cooking channels, Gordon Ramsay shows,
Yep.
Read up a little bit, get on the internet and look at what is growing as far as ethnicity in foods and learn how to eat better for way less.
Yes, and if anybody out there has any great Indian recipes, please send them over to me, Glenn at rouse.media, and my family will thank you. All right. Chip, one really stupid trend that I think is here on the list from Eater is...
Just one, Glenn. Just one.
Yeah.
Really.
All right. There's a lot, but sorry to say Eater like I'm here in New York. Eater. So Italian food. I thought that was pretty much a day-to-day part of life. It is not a food trend. What do you think?
Say that again. You're saying Italian food is not a trend?
No, I think it's not a trend. I think it's just the way people eat. It's beyond a trend.
Yeah, it's a staple because Italian immigrants were obviously amongst the first to really open restaurants in the United States. So that created a lot of Italian-American culture that is still prevalent in restaurants that aren't even Italian places. Like, how many places within the past, say, years have you seen guanciale?
Yeah, right.
You know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, nobody knew what the heck that was. Nobody knew what that was. I had somebody reading one of my menus the other day. They were like, so you're making an Italian place? I'm like, shut up. No, of course not. But it's got Italian ingredients in it or Italian techniques in it, you know, with fusion type of stuff. And that's always going to be a prominent part of our culture because obviously the Italians were pioneering in opening restaurants in, you know, the early stages of America's birth.
Right. And I seriously, I don't know anybody who doesn't eat Italian food at least once a week or some derivative of it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. All right. How about this trend? Heirloom produce. The National Restaurant Association is saying that's going to be big this year.
Love it. And here's why. What they call heirloom, okay, is actually how vegetables are supposed to look. What we have, when you go into the grocery store and you see that big, huge red beefsteak tomato, perfectly round and shiny and whatnot, is genetically engineered. It was not supposed to look like that. It's not supposed to look like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So heirloom is actually what that means is a very natural, a very organic, I've got prices right in the background for some reason. A very normal tomato, you know. And me personally, when I see something that is like a lime green with darker green specks in it and all misshapen, like Eric Stoltz's face in the movie The Mask. I love it. I want to eat that first.
That's really funny. And I'm also stuck on The Price is Right. I'm thinking of the that little mountain climber game. Yodelay, yodelay, yodelay.
Cliffhanger. Sure.
Yeah, cliffhanger. Good. Glad you
know, there are people that want to go to California and tour wine country. They're like, let's go to Napa Valley. I'm like, we go to California, buddy. I'm standing in line to go to Price is Right, okay? Because I crushed that show.
I want to go there too. I would love to be on that show, except I'd probably have no clue how much anything costs. You know, they're like, how much for this bottle of Pepsodent? $49.95. I don't know. All right,
heirloom. I'm all about it. I'd like to see more and more of that. You're seeing carrots. I mean, you're seeing a lot of root vegetables come out like that are titled as that when really it's becoming a buzzword to use heirloom as it. And really, you know, what I said before about things being kind of modified genetically or being modified is not how produce originally looked. So when you see heirloom, just know that you're getting what a vegetable is supposed to look like, what it's supposed to taste like, instead of being scared off by it.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see if the average American can look at a piece of fruit or a vegetable and say, that's not pretty, I'm going to buy it anyway. It's strange how
I think the uglier the better every day when I look in the mirror, you know.
Well, at least you're making fun of yourself and I didn't have to nail you on that one, which I wouldn't have, but only because it's your birthday and we want to celebrate you, Chip, today.
Well, thank you very much, Glenn. I appreciate it.
All right. So I think that's all we really have time to talk about. I feel like we could go through every single one of these and make fun of a lot of them. One thing I would make fun of is they're saying seafood towers are going to be a big trend now. I think this list must have been from 1978 or something to say seafood towers are a big trend.
Seafood towers?
Yeah.
Really? That's an indulgence and overpriced. Sustainable seafood is going to become something that I think everybody's going to talk about more because they're going to force fishermen to do that.
Yep.
Instead of overfishing, you're going to start to see a seasonality where you just simply can't buy things for a couple of years.
Yeah.
You know, tuna, salmon, things like that are so incredibly overfished. They're going to start to put regulations on those where you just won't be able to get it for a couple of years, and otherwise you'll make the species extinct. And nobody wants that to happen because, A, extinction is forever, but B, they're freaking delicious. Don't kill them all.
Mm-hmm.
God.
Yeah, I know. Well, hopefully you will be right, and there will be an effort to stop this from happening. One of my favorite celebrity chefs that I've gotten to know a little bit is Rick Moonen. He's been a very big proponent of sustainable seafood, and I had him on my old podcast. I should see if I could dig up that interview and repost it because it was so fascinating, all about that sustainable seafood. All right, before we go and let you go back to your glass of wine, any final departing thoughts there, Chip?
No, please find me, Chip English, Chef Chip English. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, also Creative Catering Concepts here in Atlanta, Georgia. But outside of that, keep in mind, Glenn, for you yourself, I did have a topic that maybe we should touch on last time, which is food you should not bring on the plane, you stinky patron.
All right. We'll talk about that next time. That's a great way to get people to hang on for your next appearance, because I know we all love to complain about stinky food. And the next, after the airplane, it's crap you shouldn't be bringing into your office with you either. I can't stand that either. All right. We can't talk about this now. We'll save it for next time. I want to thank everybody for listening. Chip, you're always awesome. Now stay tuned, because after this commercial break, we've got the one and the only Raul Leal, CEO of Virgin Hotels, and how they're transforming the hospitality industry. And we'll be right back after this message.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, this is Jeff from Endpoint Multimedia. You've heard me on the show give off lists of great travel tips and spots. Well, now I'm going to give you my super secret beach vacation spot. Villas Hermosas is just steps from the beautiful beach of Playa Hermosa in Costa Rica, which is close to Santa Teresa and Malpais. I've personally been going to Villas Hermosas for 7 years now, and the owners Brad and Tara treat their guests like friends. And no matter what your interests are, they'll lead you in the right direction. The reason I love this particular part of the country is that the southern Nicoya Peninsula is more untouched and raw than some of the more well-known tourist destinations of Costa Rica. But don't let that ruggedness fool you. You can be pampered as much as you'd like at Villas Hermosas, and the restaurants in town are simply amazing. So whether you're looking for true solitude, an adventure vacation with zip lining and quad tours, or a great surfing destination with super consistent waves, Villas Hermosas is my personal recommendation. Check them out, villashermosas.com, and let them know you heard about them from us. Enjoy the rest of the show.
So, one of the things that I think is really cool, Raul, is that it seems to have taken you guys a little while to get started, but boom, once you opened up that hotel, I have not seen anybody gushing as much as I have from your property. And of course, I'm sitting here talking to Raul Leal. He is in charge of Virgin Hotels. And Raul, being CEO of Virgin, how before we get into the property itself, how cool is that just to have that title?
Look, it's fantastic. It's a great opportunity. It's one of the world's favorite brands. Lots of fun and just as advertised. Mm-hmm. Kind of just like Richard's personality, really. And the company is, incredibly innovative, but really lets you do your thing. They're really behind hiring good people and letting them do their job. So it's been a fantastic opportunity because it almost has taken someone like me from outside the hotel business. They've taken me from the inside of the hotel business and then worked with a company like Virgin for a couple of years and changed my point of view on quite a few things.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that, Raul. What was that process like? Because you started with them, I want to say 2010, and that first property didn't open to 2015. So while a lot of the industry folks out there, and just so you know, I'm appealing towards road warriors and consumers as well that don't know this story. People in the industry is like, what's taking so long? What's taking so long? Man, I think when you see the property open, you understand kind of what took so long. So what was that process like, inventing this whole new concept?
Well, look, it took longer than most of us thought. But once we got into the nitty-gritty after we launched, we actually officially launched in January of 2011 at the Alice Conference.
Yes.
Once we did the launch, we realized that like many things that Virgin does as a group, we had to have a very specific point of view on all the areas of the hotel, whether it was the guest room, the technology, the overall product, what does the brand stand for, what is it going to be like 5 years from now. So our board diligently said, take your time to figure it out. But the key to the whole thing is that the first one we launch has got to be right.
Right.
Because we're not going to launch 100 of these. I mean, the plan is really to have maybe 25 great hotels all over the world in some of the key cities and secondary markets, and that was always the plan. And Richard at the very beginning was very good. He said, look, take your time. Let's make sure that we get it right, that we get the product right. We're building another big brand. And at the end of the day, we're not going to have 100 hotels either. So let's just make sure the first one hits a home run. So we looked at every possible opportunity that we could to improve the guest experience inside the hotel.
It seems so antithetical to me, though, Raul, because usually when you're talking about companies, and big companies in particular, it's like you've got to start getting that product out there to start making money. What is it about the company culturally that you feel that made it so you could figure out the right way to do things, which you'll then tell me about afterwards?
Sure. So I think Virgin as a brand is more concerned about brand integrity than any company I've ever seen.
That's amazing.
One thing we didn't want to do is, have a bunch of hotels in different locations and the consumer didn't know what to expect, like many hotel brands today. In other words, over time, they really, decided because of development or just growth or whatever that they could just expand, and then the consumer experience, stopped being important. So from our perspective, it was always about, again, having a point of view on the experience, following it through, being able to replicate it in every market that we were going to go into, but it was never really about mass, commoditization.
Right. And you definitely don't want that, because that's the fear, because once you hit that commodity level, then all you're doing is competing on price, and there's nothing special about your brand anymore.
Right. And if you think about today what's happening in the market with hotels, full-service hotels, and let's say the threat of Airbnb and all the homogenization that's gone on in the industry. So as a hotel, person for the last 35 years of my life, and somebody who's owned a company, owned hotels and whatever else, I would be very scared if I was a full-service hotel owner somewhere where the experience didn't stand out in today's market. Because consumers are definitely looking to be thrilled now when they travel, and the lines of travel and business and pleasure are blurred. So I think that Airbnb is really going to affect those hotels that have a very homogenous experience. Well, all you're getting for the price of the room is really the room, and maybe the restaurant doesn't have any cachet or isn't a lot of fun, or maybe it's a destination. Maybe it's a location buy. But I think those hotels should be very concerned about the future of such assets, all the full service or limited service assets that don't have a real experience.
Oh, that's really interesting. So your point of view on Airbnb, and I got to tell you, Raul, whenever anybody finds out what I do for a living, that's the first question they ask me. What about Airbnb? How's that going to change everything? So what your point of view is that, hey, if you don't have anything to offer that's special or unique or that's really authentic to the neighborhood, then you're really asking for trouble. And if it's not Airbnb, it's going to be someone else.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. And I think Airbnb will continue to appeal to the leisure traveler. I mean, I've tried Airbnb myself, and if you're going into a destination where you want to get a real local feel for what's going on and try something different, it's very appealing. The question is, will they ever appeal the way the hotel business does because of all the bells and whistles that hotels have to offer to the middle of the week, let's say loyal corporate customer that wants a certain experience because they want to be in and out, get their job done, and then go home, right? So I think I don't think hotels are dead by any means. I think Airbnb will make an impact. I think it's another choice. But I think the more hotel brands that pop out that don't really have a point of view on the experience or don't offer something different, it's going to make it worse for the hotel business in general, just because there's going to be more places to stay. So compression will be far less.
I also think, Raul, and I know you're going to wind up agreeing with me on this one. I find that a lot of folks in the hospitality industry seem to have a silo thinking in the way that their guests are going to act and behave. just because on a Tuesday night I need to stay at XYZ branded business hotel because I want to get my points doesn't mean that I'm going to behave that way if I'm taking my family away on a vacation or if I'm trying to immerse myself in the culture of a city like Venice for a few days when I'm alone with my spouse, right? So understanding how customers come at products in a lot of different ways is important. So I never understood why people are taking the Airbnb is going to destroy the business or it's not going to affect the business at all because
I don't think it is. I mean, I don't think it is. And I think, look, I think there's a lot to be said about understanding customers' preferences, but only if they opt in. Without being creepy, without targeting customers' behaviors completely so that they feel they're being stalked and you have to give them special offers because last time they were there, they used their spa or whatever else. I think that there's a lot to be said for behaving cautiously in terms of preferences. Certainly understanding and listening to your customers, but not targeting your customers so much that they feel inundated by offers that, sure, they may have used it last time. Maybe this time they're thinking something completely different. So I think what Airbnb offers is really the freedom to be yourself and do whatever you want.
Right.
That's what I see.
Yeah,
I think that some of the hotels, in our environment. Look, I'm a hotel guy. I love the hotel business. I love full service, limited service, lifestyle. I love every piece of the hotel business. But I think we're trying almost to dissect the customer too much sometimes and trying to figure out what's in their heads. And I think it changes, as you said, day by day, state by state. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And you're not trying to appeal towards a single customer for every single trip that they take to Chicago, for example, where you're open.
No.
But only trips that feel fit in with that persona for your particular product.
Yeah, well, it's interesting with us. So the brand, which is one of the reasons that I decided to do this venture with Virgin is because I saw the mass appeal of a brand that doesn't really try too hard, that has a tremendous organic following of really raving fans. They're not really consumers. They're more like raving fans like you would have with, Apple or a company like that. So if you go to Chicago, for example, we just had the first demographics from the year, psychographics, either way.
Yep. And
it was interesting. It was about 34% millennials, 35% Gen X, and the balance was baby boomers and whatever else.
Wow.
And it's totally in keeping with what you see in that hotel. So I had been interviewed by the press last year, and they said, well, Virgin Hotels is creating another millennials brand. I said, no, we're absolutely not. And I said, look, I said one thing, and I said I have a millennial daughter, and I will tell you one thing. One thing my daughter says to me, which is true, is millennials do not want you to create a hotel for them.
Right.
Because they don't want to be told who we are. They're kind of, as they go, that's why Airbnb is so appealing to them, so they can pick and choose who they are as they go from city to city.
That's interesting, Raul. I find that really fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So from our perspective, it's really about, if I can use Chicago, and I think is the way the hotel brand will be, when you walk in there, you have millennials sitting around playing on the computers and doing their work and a sofa somewhere having a cup of coffee. Then if you go into the diner, you have a Gen X couple with a young child hanging out, doing the same thing, people playing on their devices. And then when you go to the Commons Club on the second level, you look at the bar and there's a couple there that's, in their 60s, good looking, well-traveled, having a martini at the bar. And you understand all of a sudden that it's not age. It's really like-minded people that are looking for a bit of an adventure, something different. And I think we qualified it early on that what we wanted the brand to do really, and without putting this in writing anywhere, having mottos about it, we wanted the brand to really allow people just to be themselves. Whatever it is that you want to, if you're wearing jeans and a T-shirt, it's great. If you want to wear a tie, that's great. Whatever it is that turns you on, that's what the ethos, hopefully, of Virgin Hotel would be. Not categorizing you and saying, well, you're too old, you're too young, you're a millennial, you're this or whatever else. So the offering should appeal to lots of different people.
And it should. And I think that the hotel industry in general, again, has made an error. And everyone, I find a lot of times that if one person comes up with an idea and is vocal enough about it, everybody else kind of puppets it back. You see some CEO on the stage at a major industry conference say something, and then everybody is suddenly blinded and decides that that's the opinion. And I think, and what I've been preaching the last 3-4 years, and I bet you're going to agree with me this too, is it's not about millennials, it's about the millennial mindset. And we've just gotten confused and thinking that we have to focus on this one group when really we're all just kind of changing. It's just they're a little bit more visible than us older folks.
Yeah, no, and you're totally right. I'll tell you a funny story. You know, look, I think you know my history as well as anybody before this. You know, before this,
but the readers don't. I mean, the listeners don't. So feel free to share as much as you want.
Yeah, thanks so much. I was running a hotel management company called Desires Hotel in Miami, which was a collection of 20 or some odd boutique hotels with my partner, Richard Millard. And, you know, we had cool hotels and cool places all over the place, boutique hotels, and mostly like a typical company, though. You know, I remember when I was at Desires, I had I was the president of the company. I had my corner office, the whole thing. So then I went to work for Virgin. And the first day I walked in Virgin, I go, "Where's my office?" Mm-hmm. And they showed me a desk. So I can't lie. Mm-hmm. It was weird for a while.
Right.
Because, you're in the middle of a bunch of people with a desk or whatever else. Now, I barely even have a desk now.
Yeah.
I just float around from desk to desk. Look, so I've evolved over the last 6 years fairly dramatically. And I thought I was a pretty fluid guy before that, but I've also evolved. I've seen my behavior change. The way that I approach business today is different than it was 6 years ago. The way that we just moved into new offices in Miami, actually, in Coconut Grove. Mm-hmm. And, all our desks are all stacked up. I'm right in the middle of it with everybody. And I think you're right when you said that people are changing. All ages are changing, not just the millennials, but I think they brought something that's refreshing, I think, to business.
Yeah, and that's why I don't understand why some of these brands are creating, like what we had talked about earlier, the millennial-focused brands, because my attitude is, sure, even if you open up today and it appeals 100% to that category, when you're fully built out in 10 years, your group of people are suddenly going to change and have different needs and be scratching their heads as to why that hotel doesn't represent them anymore.
That's exactly right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think when we thought about it, going back to the original question, which was, why did it take you so long? Well, look, it took us really a couple of years. We bought the building in 2011, and, it took us a long time because, first of all, that building was a historic office building that had to be completed into a hotel. So that was difficult. That was more difficult than we thought. But then it really was about the brand proposition. We actually needed all that time to say, well, here's exactly what the brand proposition is. What is it? When you say Virgin Hotels, what's the 3 or 4 words that you're going to say? And at the end of the day, when we came up with it, it kind of cleared everything for us. And it was, the 3 words are membership without dues, which means that when you stay inside the hotel, because there's so much you're being offered, you're not being nickel and dime on surcharges, the mini bars at street pricing. There's a free full happy hour every day. There's things going on inside the hotel every single day. So it feels like you're a member. And if you're a guest of the hotel and you're standing next to someone who is a consumer from the street, you're definitely getting more than they are, for sure. So you feel like a member, but you're not paying a membership due. We didn't want to be confused with Soho House or anybody like that. So at the end of the day, when we were putting together the whole proposition, as we thought about it, we worked around this membership without dues, and that's how we came up with the brand proposition.
Right, and Soho House is a also brand newish hotel that's right around the corner from the Chicago.
Yeah, and they're membership driven, and I'm a fan, by the way. I think they do a great job. It's a membership, based, big time food and beverage operation. They're mostly smaller rooms, but they do a great job all over the world, and they certainly attract a similar demographic than we do. But again, we were going to be a bigger brand. The hotels are big. They're 300 to 400 rooms. The New York hotel is almost 500 rooms. No hotels less than 200 rooms. So we weren't going to be a membership driven thing. That's not the ethos of the Virgin brand. Mm-hmm. The ethos really of the Virgin brand is really, if I can put it in these words, is really exclusivity for all.
Yeah, I like that.
I think is kind of the way that I would say it is that, you know what, you should feel, no matter what level you're at, you should feel that this is, that it's exclusive, that we're not excluding you. And we talked about things like that at great length, even when we said, well, how do we handle the red rope on the roof when it gets busy up there? Mm-hmm. And we said, well, you know what, as Virgin, part of our tenets is to be playful. Right. And to do things differently. And you know what we want is we're going to have crowds and people are going to want to get in and whatever else we have. But you know what? One day on the street, we set up a lemonade stand for everybody and ice cream. people that were waiting in line. You've never seen that happen at a bar. You usually have security guards standing outside,
making you feel bad about yourself, right?
Somebody, and we actually had people actually passing out stuff in line to make people feel better on a hot summer day. So I think it's taking advantage of that brand tone of voice, which is playful, it's relaxed, the employees are relaxed as well, and the service is never scripted.
That's beautiful. And I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about how you create unscripted service, but there's so many more things I want to talk about right now. And
sure.
Number one being, hey, congratulations. You were named this past fall the #1 hotel in the United States. That would be the Chicago Virgin property by Condé Nast readers for 2016. That's a pretty exciting thing to have happen to you. So first, congratulations on that.
Well, thanks. And number 6 in the world, which we're very excited about as well.
That's awesome. Great. I didn't realize that particular factoid. And and to get picked in this year, they had twice as many people doing the voting as the year before. So it seems to me that you must have really touched people in a specific way. So I want to talk about how you touch those people. What is making your product different? I know we talked about that clubby feel, membership without, and feeling included and all of that. But let's go through some of the specifics, because if the hotel industry would like me to believe that the only way to be successful is to create an extremely small room that makes me not want to stay there and then go hang out with a lot of people that I don't know in the lobby, right? And that's really where it ends. And then maybe if it's a select service, provide me a breakfast that I'm not going to be happy with very little tiny cups of coffee. So I just did a rant on that in a show a few weeks ago. So tell me a little bit about, Raul, what some of the customer experiences and how they can take control of their stay with you.
Well, look, I think first of all, we were also trying to create a brand that was going to be difficult to compete against. Mm-hmm. Because we were in the lifestyle segment, and there's some really good competitors out there. There's W Hotels is still a competitor. There's Andre de Las. There's SLS and Morgan's now. So we said, how are we going to be different here? So the first thing is, there's 3 areas really. The first one was product. Mm-hmm. We said, look, for the longest time, the hotel room has been an issue in many ways. And even new hotel brand, even seasoned hotel brands, just continue to get it wrong. So there was a great article that you can refer to, which was on Fast Company right after we opened the hotel, which had 27 really great things inside the Virgin hotel room you won't see anywhere else.
Cool.
There was a lot of thought process given to the room in terms of how do we design this room to make it highly more detailed, a lot more functional. What are some of the nuances today of the consumer? And I think we thought those through really well. And then we said, look, why don't we look at the room design? And remember, we weren't creating a room for the female traveler, but we said, why don't we look at the room design through the eyes of the female traveler,
right,
exclusively, and see what happens?
Mm-hmm.
So we came up with lots of different things. One of the things that we came up with, which has gotten great reviews, is that in most hotels, when you order room service, you have to go to the door, stand to the door in your bathrobe, sign a check while you're standing there, have somebody come into your room and you're half clothed, or you don't want to take off your clothes. So
I like to take my clothes off while the guy is putting up my food in the room, just to make him feel really uncomfortable.
I'm with you, by the way. But anyway, so look, but not everybody's like you and I.
Right,
anyway,
that's true.
So, exactly right. But for those more modest people,
right,
especially the female traveler said, look, it'd be great if we could get room service without ever having to see the waiter.
Right.
And we said, well, how do we do that?
Yeah.
We said, well, so then we came up with this way to divide the room, what we call the first half of the room, which is affectionately called the dressing room.
Yeah.
And we said, well, look, you can order the food and have the food delivered in the first half of your room, and you never have to see them delivering it because you're in the second half and you can look through a second peephole.
Oh, that's interesting. And you've got these sliding doors that close.
Yeah, and you also never have to talk to anybody because you can order everything through the app.
Ooh.
And the app says, where do you want it delivered, the front of the room or the back of the room?
Yeah, that is pretty freaking cool. And, for somebody that talks to people for a living, I really don't like talking to people. So that's great.
Right.
I love that.
Well, exactly right. Look, some of us, it's like me. Look, I travel so much for a living like you do. Mm-hmm. I just want to go to my room.
Yeah.
And I'll decide when I want to talk to somebody, right? So the service request through technology. So one of the points of view with this, one is, let's fix the in-room product. Let's make sure that there's a thoughtful shower, there's a makeup area for the ladies, great lighting, privacy, a bed that allows, let's say, a couple and their child to work and play at the same time in the bed playfully.
Yep.
plugs everywhere. So product was one. Then the other piece was technology.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going out and adding a 25-button phone or putting an iPad in the room that nobody understands, our point of view was put the consumer in control of the experience through their device. In other words, we have an app, you put it on your device, and then you don't need to mess with anything else, including the phone.
Right.
And that's worked extremely and been very well received for us.
Very forward thinking. I think a lot more brands should be taking on that philosophy.
Yeah, and look, we had the advantage of being able to do it because we could wire the building right from the beginning.
Right.
So if you were to go back to every brand out there right now and say, "Wow, so we got to rewire the entire building," we may not be able to do that. So, and then the third piece of it was a powerful brand proposition that's difficult to compete against. And what that means is, what is the brand about?
Right.
Well, one of the things was consumers are constantly complaining about nickel and dime.
Yep.
So we said, all right, so no surcharges. So no room service delivery charges, no charges on your mini bar. The mini bar is at street pricing, which means that you can buy a Snickers bar for $1, like at 7-Eleven downstairs.
Wow. That's pretty cool. And me as a traveler, I wouldn't begrudge you for trying to take a little bit more. It's just when it gets excessive that I have a problem with it. So it's nice that you're not even bothering to try to take a cut.
Yeah, exactly right. So we actually get a lot more sales from it because of that. And then, no surcharges throughout or anything. Look, there's no late checkout charges.
Mm-hmm.
If we can accommodate you, we absolutely will. There's no charge no matter what time you check out.
Right.
The cancellation fees are incredibly fluid. It's really, I think it's 6 p.m. day of arrival you can cancel if you call us. But mostly we don't really, because look, at the end of the day, that's not where hotels really make money. Those are just ancillary charges that, they may look better on the financial statement, but the consumer is more than willing to pay a better rate if you don't nickel and dime them. So I think it was those three things, then layered over with the Virgin brand, tone of voice, and the service.
Right.
And Virgin service is about tying back to what I said before, being relaxed. So our teammates are relaxed, the uniforms are relaxed. They're empowered to do anything on behalf of the customer, really, and not be questioned. All the teammates in the hotel, including whether it's a maid or whether it's, So I think what we actually tried to do is follow through on what everybody else has been promising for years. So we didn't have to do a lot of discovery. We said, look, this stuff is we've been talking about this for years, but I stayed at the boutique hotel that will remain unnamed.
Yes.
And the room was so dark, I couldn't see myself in the mirror, and I couldn't sit in the chair in the corner because it was beautiful, very well designed, but wasn't functional. So we looked at all those things and said, tick off the box, tick off the box, tick off the box. So any other brand could have done the same thing. The only point they couldn't copy was really the Virgin tone of voice.
Right. I guess they could try, but none of them out there seem to be getting it quite right, just the way that you folks do.
Well, it's just inherent in the brand. I mean, it's not something you have to. It's not something that I created. I mean, it's something that's just the brand. All you have to do is understand it. But I'll tell you a funny story. I won't mention the brand because
please don't.
They're all my friends. But a big brand a few years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, decided that they wanted, and they've been in business for 50 years or whatever. They decided that they wanted to their employees to have more of a sense of humor.
Right.
So look, I've always said one thing. This is me. Sometimes you're funny and sometimes you're not. If you're not funny, don't try.
Right. Yeah.
Some people are funny and some people aren't.
That's true.
So they brought in comedians to begin doing some training with the teammates as a long-term initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it didn't last for long because that's not the ethos of that particular brand. They were not known as funny. They were known as a very good brand.
Right.
But they weren't particularly known for their sense of humor. So, of course, they dropped that initiative after a year or two. But going back to what I was saying, all we've done is taken what Virgin already had and injected it into the hotel business. And that's really it.
Yeah, and that's really what's interesting to me. It's a brand that's only been in existence for customers now a little bit over a year and a half, I guess it's been now.
Yep.
And but the brand itself, Virgin, has been around for getting on 50 years now, I'd say, right? Yeah. Yep. I was actually, to go back to the birth of the brand, I was just watching on YouTube the history of Tubular Bells, which was the first release on Virgin Records. And I was watching that. If anyone likes a little old Virgin history, go check that story out.
Yep.
Half-hour instrumental. You might know the first few notes from the from the Exorcist movie, but really cool and interesting in the relationship between him and Virgin. So, okay. So outside the room, you got this public space, right? But now you guys have done something interesting. You aren't incorporating everything into the lobby. Instead, you've kind of separated stuff out again, which you would think from modern design trends is a complete no-no, but you don't see it that way.
No, I don't think so. I mean, look, I think what we're trying to do is give people choices.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, if you're staying inside one of our hotels, you should have choices. What do you want to do? I mean, look, if you want to go out and explore, we certainly, give you lots of options on the app and the website. We tell you where to go, wherever you want to go.
Yep.
But I think inside the hotel, it's about options. And Chicago's a great example of that. You can party in the rooftop club. There's a live music venue. You can have a cup of coffee in the corner. You can have a burger at the diner. Or you can, feel a little bit more sophisticated on the second level, invite and entertain a high-end client. But if you're there for a day, you're not leaving that hotel. There's no reason for you to leave the hotel and go somewhere else because everything is there. And if you're there for a couple of days, you're still going to be highly entertained. And our average stay is really going to be 1.5 days. We're a corporate hotel, one way or the other. So, but I think that's another part of the brand is we want to give you enough options inside the hotel so that you don't have to. Yeah, you have to leave.
That's good because I know how boring Chicago can be. So I'd like to be entertained in the hotel. Yeah. But I had a chance to walk around the hotel last September. I really thought it was beautiful. It was inspiring. But because I didn't stay there, I didn't have as much of the connection with the staff.
Well, you're welcome anytime.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not trying to get myself a stay at the Virgin. But the reason why I say that is because I didn't have a chance to do the interactions with the staff. And today, more than ever, I think that is the most important part of it. You talked about the culture of it, but how do you make sure that staff is actually living, breathing, and espousing the culture and making the customers understand what that culture is in a sense that they're going to go home and have the strong memories of the property? Because, you may have a comfortable chair that looks great now, but that's not what they're going to tell everyone about.
Nope. So look, that's a great point. So look, I think in my estimation at least, we've come full circle in terms of teaching people and what people want today and how they want to be treated. And I think, again, it goes back to Virgin. It's really about letting the teammates be themselves. So that's one of the things that we do quite a bit in our orientations. I think you remember when Ritz-Carlton launched and then Marriott bought Ritz-Carlton, and it was always very well scripted. Remember, and it still is, ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, very formal. And I think that Ritz has also been trying to change their service over the last few years. So what we're trying to do is appeal to the team members' hearts, their personalities. We're saying, look, we're not going to tell you how to say this. We're just telling you, here's the basics of service as we believe that they are. You deliver it in your own way. We want you to be an individual. We don't want you to be scripted. You don't have to be Richard Branson or Raul Leal or anybody like that. You have to be yourself and have fun with it while you're, and take care of the customer and do whatever it takes. But it's less scripted than you would believe, but they're totally empowered to do whatever they have to on behalf of the customer. But it's really about that ethos that we said about consumers. I said, look, if we want the customers to be in an environment where they can be themselves, it has to start with our teammates. Our teammates have to be relaxed. If our teammates also don't feel they're in an environment they can be themselves, then at the end of the day, they won't be able to portray that to the consumer. And I think that's really the secret for us.
Right. So get them really comfortable, and then they could be them true selves, and then that is what will connect them to the customer base.
Yeah, really. Look, and it doesn't work all the time, 100% of the time.
Of course not.
Mostly, I think when you appeal to people's hearts and minds, and you say, hey, look, you can really be yourself. Funny story, when we opened the hotel, one of our greeters, a young lady, very personable, she walked up to me like a week after we'd opened the hotel. And, she had, very nice short spiked hair, very pretty. And she said to me, Raul, she said, I'm thinking about, can I dye my hair purple? Mm-hmm. And I said, why are you asking me? She said, well, I don't know if it was right. I said, well, do you remember what I said at orientation? I said, look, why not? If that's what you feel like. So the next day she shows up with, strands of purple hair. She looked great, actually. Great person. But it was all about, she said, wow, you guys really do walk the talk. So it starts with management really setting the tone and saying, hey, this is totally okay. if this is part of your personality, like, you know, when some companies say to you, look, you can't expose your tattoo, or, you know, if you have a, I don't know, ring in your tongue or what, that's not okay. With us, we don't really care about any of that stuff. We're delivering service. We want our people to be individuals. We want them to be free. And the internal purpose of the hotel is everyone leaves feeling better. That applies to our employees as well. That is the purpose of the company. Right. Everyone leaves feeling better.
And I would guess that the people that are coming to the hotel as your guests are not going to be hung up anyway with those kinds of things. Oh, that person's hair is so purple. No. I think that if someone's going to feel that way, they're probably already self-excluding themselves from your property.
Yeah, and look, it's fine. I mean, if somebody feels that way, there's nothing, who cares? I think that's how they feel about it, and we don't judge, and, you know, as we always say, we love everybody. But I think the objective was also for our teammates to leave. Look, I've always said this in orientation, even back in Desires. I said, I love the hotel business, and you got to love it because you're dealing with people every single day. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if you don't love it, you should leave and go do something else, but don't mess it up for the rest of us to do. So we're very candid about that at orientation. We said, look, here's what if you don't like it, leave. And we actually had some people that came up. We said, hey, you know what? Thank you. You helped me find what I really wanted to do, and thank you for being so candid or whatever. So, but the hotel has had it's been open 2 years. We've had under 25% turnover.
Holy cow.
Which is ridiculous for a new hotel.
I would say, and let me add for the folks that don't know, typically in the hospitality industry, a traditional property might have 100% or more turnover in a single year. So that's phenomenal.
And I believe the average industry now is in the high 70s, I believe, the last thing I read. But I think, you know, and then we've had people that have left and come back.
Yep.
So it says a lot about the treatment of people and whatever else. And I think at the end of the day, you know, people, whether they're millennials or whatever they are, they just want to be treated fairly and given a chance. I still believe that.
That's right. And they just want to feel good about themselves. And if you want to feel good about yourself out there, everyone listening, you could stay at a Virgin Hotel opening in Dallas in 2018. And then in 2019, you got 4 of them coming: New York, Nashville, Palm Springs, and Silicon Valley. Hopefully you'll be opening up into a healthy, hearty hospitality industry, but I'm not so sure. How are you seeing the future of the hospitality business coming this year, next year, and I don't know, 50 years in the future, whatever you feel like?
You mean for us or for the industry?
Yes, and yes. For you, it looks like it's going to be amazing. But beyond that.
We will be opening something this year that we will be announcing at the Alice Conference on the West Coast. We've kept it very quiet.
Ooh.
It's been under construction for about a year and a half.
What?
In a major city in the West Coast. We're going to be announcing it at Alice. And we've kept it quiet for a variety of different reasons, but it would be announced at Alice, and it should open in the summer this year.
That's awesome. And Alice happens to be a major hotel industry conference taking place the second to last week of January in L.A. And for all of you non-industry folks that are listening to this show, it's really where all of the superstar muckety-mucks in the business all slap each other on the back and talk about how awesome this business is and how great it is.
You know? That's about right. A lot of good parties. There is a lot of good parties, though.
Oh, that's why I love Alice for the good parties, but I haven't really gotten any invitations yet, which probably says more about me than all of the brands that are going to be there.
Well, you're totally invited to any Virgin party. Anytime you want to come.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that. This is why I like talking to you, man. I just throw out veiled statements, and then boom, you're just on it and making up offers at me. But one thing that I've talked about before in terms of the health of the hospitality industry, but I don't think we've ever discussed it. I'm not sure if I talked about it on this podcast. Is my theory about the health of the industry and being able to tell the state that we're in directly correlated to the types and amounts of sushi that are at the cocktail parties.
That's very, very true.
Right?
I think you're right. I think it's, we should measure and track that for our next conversation.
Yes. So I knew we were in trouble when I was at a big hospitality conference in New York one year, and gone was the assortment of pieces, and they were down to just veggie rolls. I'm like, time to run.
Funny.
Time to leave the business.
That's very funny.
Anything else that you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I think it'll be in general. I think it'll be a good year for the hotel business. I really do. I mean, I think now that the election is over, and even though there's quite a bit of uncertainty for the future as usual, but I think it'll be a good year for the hotel business. It'll continue to be stable, I think, for a while, because some of the new, supplies slowed down quite a bit. So I still think we have a good, several years ahead of us, barring any
Yeah,
significant
right. All of the
international incidents.
all the stuff that you have to.
So we're bullish about it, and we'll continue to make announcements at about 2 hotels a year at Eclipse. So
wow, that's really great. And congratulations to you. And for everyone listening, be sure to check out virginhotels.com. They're open right now in Chicago in the Loop District, and it's a really beautiful place. And I got to get myself back there to try it. And Raul, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
And for all of you guys out there listening, I want to thank you for listening to this show every single week, week after week, and helping me increase those numbers. And I know having a guy like you, Raul, on the show is going to help me get some more ears, which is always a great thing. And I will be back.
Happy to do it.
Thank you. And I will be back next week. That is, unless I decide to go to Chicago and hide out in a suite at the Virgin Hotel and peer through my second peephole at guys bringing me a hamburger. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.